Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today has been Todd Abbott. We've been talking about some of the issues, some of the conversations that you hear around the dining tables in all of the cafes in the area in the morning. You go in to have your morning coffee or you go to have lunch someplace. This is what people are talking about, Todd. No new information to you. I don't think you can go anywhere without somebody coming up to you and asking you, either complimenting you on the good job that you're doing. Probably doesn't happen all as often as you would like, but more importantly, they start asking the tougher questions and they complain. I think it's very important to give them that platform upon which they can complain, as long as they are willing to give you the time to explain the reasons behind your decisions. And so often those kind of conversations become emotional to the point where we don't really accomplish anything. I think that's one of the reasons we do these segments, is so that people can hear in your own words the answers to some of these tougher questions. We've talked a little bit about our roads. We've certainly talked about the debt here in Washington County and how you guys are addressing that. What other are major issues that we face today in Washington County?
I think it all revolves around roads. It's where we spend most of the taxpayers' money is on roads and repairs. And one of the biggest challenges that I have faced since being in office is perhaps roads flooding out, the rainwater cutting them in half, not being passable at times. And in order to fix some of them areas that we do have problems in, I could be specific and name specific roads. You need more property to properly get the water off of the roadways. And there's a lot of times that by doing that, you need more right-of-way that's going to infringe on people's personal property. And that is an emotional issue. We have a road here in our county that is a north and south road, runs through several communities. We were trying to knock down some hills and make them one hill, which would lowered it and made it more safe to go over the hill. In doing so, to get the drainage that we needed personal property to be able to widen the road, to be able to get the water off of it with the engineering's plans. And some of the individuals was less in favor of giving their personal property for their own reasons, which is their right. But it stopped us from making the road improvements, and that's a difficult challenge. And by all rights, it's their property, and I'm not that guy that wants to take their property to make them improvements. It is what it is. We live with the best we can do, but it's emotional when people start talking about giving up their personal property and to making the roads better. And the way that government business was done in the past is a lot different than it is today. You have a lot more regulations, water regulations, you have property regulations, state mandates. It's the road structure, when you start improving it, it's got to meet a certain standard. And a lot of the roads that we have in this county, one of the major standards that was not met of today's world that we have to meet is the width of the roads. To have them safe, and of course I think maybe not built wider, but it's just not as safe, some of the roadways that we have because of the width.
Our 30 years in Panama City Beach, we call that NIMBY. People wanted changes, but NIMBY stood for not in my backyard. Mm-hmm. So we want those things to happen, but we want it to happen over on your property, not on ours.
Sure.
It's not rocket science to understand what you're talking about. If you go down Highway 77 or Highway 79, the areas that are being four-laned, you see these huge stormwater runoff areas. Yes. that in many times is much larger area than what the road is itself.
Yes.
One of our major problems here in the Chipley city limits has been the Blue Lake flooding, and the four-laning of that with the engineering is going to take care of that.
Yes.
And we saw Highway 77 closed for almost a week
Yes.
back a number of years ago. We documented some of that. It happened again not long after that to a lesser degree. But until you start engineering and taking care of these things properly, you can't do that. The issue with any county is that many of these roads have been around for a couple hundred years.
Yes.
You've got Bahama Road that comes to my attention. It's north of Chipley off of Highway 77. And when you drive up that road, you feel like you're in a ditch because the sides of the banks on either side, in some places, are over 6 foot high.
Yes.
And so when it rains and water dumps in there, it's a sluice. There's no place for that water to go. That road will never be permanently improved until something drastic can be done to that surrounding area. However, if it were my property on either side, I'd have to, probably say, hey, no, I don't want you to take my property. When you start talking about eminent domain, and I think that's what you're talking about there, giving fair value for property.
Perhaps, yeah.
It's a very emotional issue.
It is, yes. Yeah.
Do you anticipate that there may be some of that has to take place in the next 30, 40, 50 years in our region in general to be able to make these improvements?
I think on state highways, that's being done now. With the county government, I'm not aware of that ever happening. I'm not in favor of that for our local roads, taking the citizens' property and paying them the fair market value. I'm just not in favor of that. I'm not that guy.
We currently see, once more alluding to the four-laning, Highway 77 making great strides. Highway 79 was sort of co-joined, those two roads, 77 and 79, with the 331 project. They were bid by the same contractors all in a package, and 331 is almost finished up now, so we're seeing some of that equipment come back over to 77 and 79. Just recently, my wife and I were at Pier Park, and in 55 minutes, we went from Pier Park to our front door in Chipley. In 40 of that 55 minutes, we were in Vernon. Right now, Vernon is in the catbird seat from my perspective. They have the opportunity to develop there. They're, for all practical purposes, adjacent to the new Northwest Florida Beaches International Airport. They have water and sewer in their city limits, and they have that four-lane, which allows them access to deep water ports and rail system, and points north to Highway 90 and I-10. With the addition of the four-laning of 77, same thing. You've got that stretch. Now all of a sudden, Sunny Hills and Chipley are a lot closer together because you can make that trip in 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes. And when you get behind that peanut wagon during harvest season in the double yellow lines, and you have to slow way down. Talk a little bit about the impact that those four lanes are going to have going forward on Washington County, and how perhaps it's going to make your job a little bit easier when it comes to economic development.
The widening of the roads is going to allow much more traffic. We, as you know, Paul, a group effort by all means with the city of Chipley. It's their water and sewage. They've been able to take it south of Chipley. Now that the road's been staked out, so to speak, and widened in most cases, we can start bringing in businesses. The infrastructure's in place now. In Highway 79, we're working with the city of Bonifay. We're working with Holmes County Board of County Commission, our TDC, our Washington County Commissioner. We're working all together. Our economic development, our Chamber of Commerce, we're all working together as a community and we have secured funding from the state to bring water and sewage from the city of Bonifay through Holmes County into Washington County. The traffic studies have been done. There's a lot of traffic that goes down to Highway 79, and we're going to market that area. It's very cost effective, bringing in business, generate tax revenue, so we can lower the ad valorem. That's the goal. That is the whole goal. Bring in new jobs where our children and our grandchildren can choose to stay home and make the kind of living that they feel like they need to make to be able to survive and live out their lives.
It's pretty hard to argue with the point that four-laning heretofore two-lane road increases the property values. You add that easy access to sewer and water, and now you've made that developable. You have taken away many of the impediments to development, and having water and sewer, when you compare it to having to put in a well system and a septic system, especially if you're a fairly large business, it's almost cost prohibitive.
It is.
And once you get into the EPA and the DEP regulations, even that much more, especially stormwater runoff, which is bad enough in itself.
Yes.
All that said, you guys, as you point out, you're extending water and sewer north of Vernon, across the bridge. You're extending it south all the way down to Douglas Ferry Road.
We are.
Where we have a piece of Washington County at Douglas Ferry Road in 79.
We do.
And south of I-10 in Chipley. I know you guys can't talk about it, but can you talk in broad strokes about some of the work that's going on behind the scenes right now to attract business to those areas?
Well, in the planning, we've made it allowable the people that own their private property and want to sell it to development companies. We've taken some of the planning aspect, which is the time consumption, permitting procedures. We've taken that out of the equation to make it much more attractive to bring in businesses to have shovel-ready property that's ready to go for whatever business they want to put in that fits in the area.
It's all well and good to promise economic development, to say that's what we're working on. We are never going to attract businesses unless we have all of those main elements, which is transportation, sewer and water, education, and entertainment. Entertainment and education seem to fall by the wayside. You say, man, you got a 4-lane road, you got utilities. Who wouldn't want to be there? But you have to think about somebody's going to move their family here, sometimes in a management position or just as a working position, and their kids, they want to have good education, but they also have to be able to do something for entertainment. Entertainment is something that sort of goes by the wayside sometimes. But if you don't have some source of entertainment, well, fortunately, we're less than an hour north of the world's most beautiful beaches. Right. You can live here, get this quality of life, and still enjoy all that costs down there, and you'd pay much more for if you were paying property taxes on the beach.
Yes.
So that's got to go into that equation somehow.
It does. I think we're located in a perfect spot. I mean, we're a small bedroom community, and we like our way of life. Although we need more jobs for our children and our grandchildren to be able to stay at home. And I think with the roads being widened, having better access, better permitting, have the infrastructure put in place with water and sewage. I just think this is a win-win. Expand our bedroom community, make it a better place. There's some things that's being talked about it's been talked about for quite some time, a civic center. I think there's being plans put together now, perhaps to put a civic center into Washington County and allowing bigger crowds to come and visit. And again, when they come and visit, they're spending money, and which generates more tax revenue, so we can do more to improve our roads, more to improve our community, and take less burden away from the taxpayers here.
I know that some of those subjects are a little volatile, and depending on who you talk to, sometimes the emotions do run high. I know they're not the most comfortable things about which to talk, but I do appreciate you being candid about those things. What's the best thing about being a county commissioner? You've been there almost 8 years now, and you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. What's the best thing? What gets you up every morning ready to go and do more commissioner work?
I think it's just personal satisfaction, knowing that tax money is not being wasted. It is very productive. I think we've got it in a position now where the 8 years prior that I've spent is and I joke about not being able to spend no money, not being able to buy no presents for the county, and we've just been, basically on lockdown, not spending any money frivolously. Not that I want to do that, but it's been very rewarding being able to get to this point on debt. We have a plan. We're headed right for that direction. Really going to be close to being debt-free by this calendar year. Plan is to be so. It's just been very rewarding to see the infrastructure being put in place, the whole team working towards one common goal, and it's just been very rewarding. And I want to see the businesses come in now that we've got the infrastructure put in place, and just to see our county prosper and to be a part of that team that's lowering taxes to the approximate 30% of the people that's paying the ad valorem tax. It's just, I want to see the win come all the way through.
Todd, I've known you for a while, as I have most of the members of the board, and you don't like drama, you don't like dwelling on something, you don't like arguing. You just pointed out that sometimes your decision process can be changed radically just by somebody coming to the table with new information. Talk about how that process works and how you move on to other things.
Paul, our whole board, we're solution driven. Bring a problem to the table, an issue to the table, and I don't want to talk about the problem anymore. I want to talk about a solution, a fix for the problem, and move forward. There's so many times that we can get caught up in the problem rather than the solution. In our board, which is so nice, and it's nice to be a part of the team, we are solution driven. and we want to find a solution to the issue, and that's what we're always looking for, not dwelling on the problem.
I've got to say that I have seen some fundamental changes in Washington County just in the almost 15 years that we've been here. Tremendous changes.
Yeah.
Mindset, the makeup of different boards, whether it's the city council, the county commission, the school board. There seems to be a general atmosphere of teamwork.
It does.
There definitely seems to be a general atmosphere of forward progress. The number of naysayers and whiners are getting drowned out by the positive stuff, which I'll tell you, it hasn't always been that way. People like to sit back, especially with social media, and and whine in the background, which they can do anonymously in some cases with some of these websites. So congratulations to you. Congratulations to your sitting board of directors. Trey Hawkins, currently the chair of that board. Trey seems to be doing a pretty good job.
Just outstanding. He has brought so much energy to the Board of County Commission, and I like to pick at Trey about liking his picture taken with his pretty little face, but he has brought such energy to the board, and he brings some great experience, some great ideas with him, and that's what we're looking for. We're always looking for great ideas and great energy and solutions and just moving forward and bringing a lot of these ideas, whether it come from Trey or the community. We want good ideas brought to the table and put them to work.
Have you ever seen a chairman of that Board of Commissioners spend as much time in Tallahassee or out of town meeting with all of these different entities, trying to make things happen? Again, Trey doesn't need this job as a job. He's quite successful in business, as are you. And he amazes me. He's got a lot of energy, and I think we're going to see a lot of good things from Trey over the next few years.
I mean, I look forward to it. I really do. He does. He's just got a lot of energy. And our whole board as a whole, we visit Tallahassee and talk to our senators and our congressmen and representatives. I mean, they've all been great. Our governor has been just wonderful for Washington County. Our representatives, they just really take good care of us. Senators, they just really are taking good care of Washington County. And I think they see that there's been a change in Washington County government over the last several years, and we have goals in mind, and we have plans to get to the goals, and we're reaching them goals. And it's been very rewarding to be a part of this team.
You mentioned the governor and our various senators all in one breath, so that'll open up the door for me. Just recently, you and Trey Hawkins welcomed Rick Scott, Governor Rick Scott, to Chipley. He was visiting here. Obviously, he's on his campaign tour himself, running against Bill Nelson. Rick has been good for Washington County. He's been good for Northwest Florida.
He has.
Everybody doesn't like somebody, and I'm sure there are a lot of folks that are in that boat as far as their feelings toward Rick Scott. He has been extremely good for Washington County and for our entire area. So you and Trey had the opportunity to welcome him. I know present also were some of the other Board of County Commissioners and Chamber of Commerce folks and business people. But I was really proud to see you guys take that step and actually be proactive in there. And you guys were well received.
It was such a privilege to have him coming through and allow us to once again, thank him personally. We have a brand new courthouse for our citizens, second to none, that is safe for all the legal people with some of the trying issues that we have in the world is safety. It's just been wonderful. He has encouraged his team to put forward money to make the schools safe. The funding was running behind, and the decision was made by the Board of County Commissioners to front some funds to allow another 3 additional school resource officers, armed, of course, and that's gone through the safety training. And they never really quit training, but I don't want to talk about the sheriff's team. But it allowed us to help and assist with the school safety by having all the schools with an armed officer rather than having to share with budget crunches. And in the school system, I mean, he's allowed us school funding, road funding, project funding, water and sewage. It's been wonderful, and it allowed us to be able to thank him. And of course, we always have an additional wish list that we trying to get funding out of. But Governor Rick Scott has been great for Washington County.
You mentioned the sheriff's office. You guys, as a county commission and commensurately the entire county, enjoys a great relationship with that sheriff's office.
We do.
Kevin Cruz, our not so brand new sheriff anymore, has been there for a while now, but faces a lot of challenges. You know, when the DOT opened up the new I-10 message system, they basically attracted all of the existing dispatchers from all of the local sheriff's offices, and because they were paying more money. We get that. You know, you offer somebody $3, $4 more an hour, they're gone.
Sure.
There were times when the sheriff was sitting in there doing dispatching because he didn't have somebody for that shift. What kind of a relationship do you enjoy? And I just said it was a good one, but talk a little bit about that relationship that you guys have with Kevin Cruz and the entire Washington County Sheriff's Office.
You know, we talk personally to our sheriff. I mean, he's got an open door policy as well as we have an open door policy. We work together very closely on funding. Part of one of the county commission's responsibility is for that department to fund their budget and looking at their needs. What they have to be able to keep our community safe, and some of it is being able to retain employees. They have better benefits in other areas, so we need to look at our benefits, and we have done that, and we fixed it. And one of the things, accomplishments that I've been proud of, is we done a payroll study, a pay study, and you know, it was not cheap, but it allowed us to know, for the line of work that the county employees are in, what is a fair value? And they done a study, a pay study for this area. And it gave a starting point and a finish point for each job slot. So moving forward, it doesn't matter what county manager, what sheriff, what corporal, what supervisor, what department head that you have come in place, there's a pay standard for our area that has been set in place, and it's working. Some of the problem has been the benefit, the insurance benefit package. There was a team developed to look at health insurance. A family of 3, 4, 5, it was the insurance rate, health insurance, was cost prohibitive. And then you have an individual that perhaps doesn't have that benefit, so they're going to be looking elsewhere, maybe at a place that does have that benefit. So we're in the process of changing that now. We've just had open enrollment for our new insurance company, and the county is been able to get insurance cheaper, which has allowed us to add them benefits to the employees, to make it less expensive on the employees, which makes it more attractive for them, which you'll be able to retain employees longer.
I think that the more you as county commissioners can speak to the public, either through a venue such as this or in person, in whatever gathering that is possible, it's very important to be transparent to the people. Now, I know for sure that you guys certainly are transparent, and with the way you conduct your meetings, and by law, you must make all that stuff available. But the more the public is able to hear from Todd, from Trey, from Steve, from Charles, and Alan, I think the easier it is for them to digest, to understand the issues that you're facing, how you're dealing it, and why you're making the decisions you are. Just recently, I believe it was a political candidate erroneously made the mention that you had an $18 million budget in Washington County. Far from the truth, closer to 7, I believe.
It is.
But there's so much misinformation and wrong information, and it doesn't help when people are disseminating that kind of information, certainly. So thanks for taking the time today. I know being on that hot seat is not the best thing. We would like to reserve the right to have you back, certainly as we get closer to the general election, maybe even more than once. If somebody would like to address you personally, if they would like to talk to you on the phone, maybe meet with you and speak, if they would like to email with you, what's the easiest way for somebody to get up with you, Todd?
My personal cell phone number is 850-638-6789. I would welcome any comments, any input. The Board of County Commissioners are just as good as the knowledge that they can gather up or the knowledge that they've experienced and have. We're always open to new ideas, to excelling on the current ideas. Any input is welcome. Again, if you would just give me a call and you'd like to come meet with me or want me to come meet with you, 850-638-6789. Please call me anytime.
That number right now on the screen. Have you guys as a board or you personally changed your stance on a subject after somebody who you may not have heard from in the past has come forward with additional information?
Yeah, I not specific, but there's been a lot of occasions that someone will bring something to the table, a new idea or even a turn on the current, and we can adjust to it. We really welcome ideas. We want your input. We want you to be a part of our decision-making process.
So often people, first of all, there's a lot of people that love to complain. They're just whiners to begin with, but they complain in the background, never want to come forward, never want to step up, never want to look you in the face, never want to ask you the tough questions. But as you just pointed out, many times it may go into your decision-making process if you have that additional information. Sure. Best of luck going forward, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Paul. I appreciate your time as well.
Our guest today has been Todd Abbott, 8 years as District 4 Washington County Commissioner, currently running for re-election for that same position. We admonish you to register to vote, but more importantly, we want you to vote from an educated, informed position. It's not a personality contest. It's not about who has the most signs. It's not about any of the drama out there. It's about what's going on, hard facts. Pay attention to those. Become an educated, informed voter, and whether it's the president all the way down to the local dog catcher, make sure that you're voting for the right person for the right reason. We'll be right back.